Hi, my name is Dr. Dan Franz, and I'm here today to share with you the idea of leading for meaning, or what is meaning at work. Now, this is a presentation I've given many times to different small business organizations, corporate leadership teams, and various employee groups. And I thought that information fit particularly well with an Educating for Careers conference like this. I hope you find this information helpful as you consider how it impacts your students and the young adults that you're preparing for careers. So, before we get into this idea of meaning, let's go back in history about 2,500 years to the Greek philosopher Plato, who came up with this idea initially. He said, "Man, a being in search of meaning." And we generally consider Plato to be a pretty helpful individual. He's given us a lot of good information over the years that we still use today. But if we think about it, if we look back at this idea of meaning, mankind has done many amazing positive things in the name of meaning. We've created entire civilizations in the past 2,500 years, systems of government. We've developed and improved, consistently improved technology to improve our lives and our lifestyle. We've come to understand medicine and develop that science to not only improve life, but to ideally prolong life. And we've developed and created various works of art and poetry to beautify our lives. All of these in a positive aspect of meaning. On the other hand, mankind's also done many terrible things in the name of meaning. We've committed genocide and developed ever increasing ways to wage war, victimized and marginalized individuals, and destroyed entire cultures and species. So then, if meaning can be seen both positively and negatively, what then is meaning? And what does it mean to us now? More importantly, how can you use meaning in your work? The way I think of it more simply is, how do you do meaning? Well, if we fast forward about 2,400 years, so about 100 years ago, to a Austrian physician, psychiatrist, neurologist named Viktor Frankl. Frankl starts to put a framework around the science and psychology of meaning. He develops theories of what meaning means to individuals and groups, and he puts those theories to work in his clinics in Vienna, Austria, an area and a history that was ravaged by World War One, that has one of the highest suicide rates in human history. Yet those that worked with Frankl found that they got better. People in his community, suicide rates dropped, people returned to work, and the theories that he was creating genuinely helped those around him. And he actually had an unfortunate opportunity to really put those ideas to test. You see, as a Jewish physician in World War II, Vienna, Austria, Frankl saw Nazi Germany coming. He saw what they were bringing. And he had an opportunity to leave his homeland. He had an opportunity to take a visa and come to the United States. But he tells a poignant story of how he made a very meaningful and life altering decision to stay at home with his parents and try to help them avoid the scourge of World War II. And unfortunately, it was just a short time later where his parents and he were both escorted to the concentration camps of Nazi Germany, where he lost his parents. He lost his entire family, parents, siblings, friends, including his wife. And during his 3 years in those concentration camps, in multiple concentration camps, he put his theory to test. He had to use them to help himself and those around him survive. And when he was finally liberated 3 years later, in a fever pitch, he went out and wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which is genuinely considered to be one of the top 10 books in the past century. He wrote it in just 9 days, chronicling what he remembered of his time in the concentration camps and how his theories helped him to survive and how he helped those around him to survive. And from that time, he comes up with this quote, possibly one of my favorites, that life has meaning under all circumstances, even the most miserable. Now, how does that relate to work? Unfortunately, in the times we live in, sometimes work can be a little bit miserable. Sometimes career choices go awry and we find ourselves in a place we don't want to be. And now, fortunately, you get to have an impact on that. And that's why I want to bring this information to you, to take what we're going to talk about here and to share with those young adults you work with that are moving forward into a career so that they can make meaningful decisions and have a meaningful impact on their lives and on the lives of those around them. So, to help kind of generalize that and bring it to our times now, I took a little bit of what Frankl, a lot of what Frankl wrote, and a little bit of Plato, and I came up with this idea that humankind is currently composed of 7.5 billion people, all of which are special and unique in their own way, with exponential variability in their indispensable and irreplaceable personalities, all in search of one thing, not money, even though that's often why we choose a career, not pleasure, even though that's often what we aim to achieve with the money we gain from a career, and definitely not power. Although we've seen the effects of power in recent history and how it corrupts and how it's not the essence of what we're trying to achieve as human beings. No, as we've been saying, humankind is in search of one thing, that's meaning. And so, what does that have to do with career? How do we discover meaning in life and especially in our work? Well, Frankl, in his idea of logotherapy, says we discover meaning in three different ways, three very different and unique ways. Our creative values. We can find meaning in creating a work or in doing a deed. We can think of that as what we give to life. Sometimes it's not easy getting up in the morning and going off and doing our daily work. But most of the time, ideally, I hope for you and for those that you work with, when you get there and you get to find the impact you have on others or the work that you're creating, there's a sense of meaning there. The other way to discover meaning is through our experiential values. By experiencing something, sorry about that misspelling, or encountering someone. Our experiential values are what we take from life. By being out in the world, by experiencing other people's creative acts and work and values, by being out in nature, by taking a vacation, right? We discover meaning in those actions, in those values, in what we take from life. And finally, one of the most important areas where we can discover meaning is in our attitudinal values, or in our attitude we take towards life, especially the difficulties in life and the ever present suffering that we feel as human beings. When we choose our attitude towards those difficult times, whether it's through a difficult time at work or in a relationship or some unforeseen illness or suffering, when we choose a positive attitude, we have the opportunity to turn that suffering into achievement and meaning. So we take this into the realm of work, this idea that we discover meaning through creativity, through experience, and through attitude, and we take it to the workplace, to the workforce. And these are a couple of quotes I want to discuss from Viktor Frankl himself. Work in itself does not make the person indispensable and irreplaceable. It only gives him the chance to be so. And I just love that idea. No matter what the work is somebody is doing, the attitude in which they choose to do it allows them to be indispensable and meaningfully irreplaceable, regardless of the job. And I think all too often, sometimes when we try to coach people into a career, into a job change, into some kind of new work oriented situation, we look at the prestige or the rank of the job. And what this is saying is the job, the work, the position doesn't matter. What matters is the attitude that we choose. As the next quotation says, the job at which one works is not what counts, it's not what matters, but rather the manner in which one does the work. And I know for me personally, as somebody who has studied this for a long time, there was a time when I thought different work meant different values, different ability to discover meaning. And what Frankl is saying here is it doesn't. It's that attitude that we choose and how we go into that work. And I think that's something important to pass on to students and young adults beginning to go into the workforce. That regardless of what they choose to do, there can be meaning there. They can find meaning, and it's important that they do so. So, how does this impact students, young adults, and career choice? First, we must teach young adults to know themselves, especially in a culture that calls them to conform, to be like everybody else, to be like what they see on social media. They lose themselves and they don't know, and they choose make decisions based on what they see rather than who they are. So sometimes it's helpful to have assessment like the Myers-Briggs or the DISC. Hopefully you're able to provide some kind of advisement or counsel, mentorship. Current work experiences can be a great example for students to learn what they like and, of course, what they don't like, as well as academic performance and interests. This is so important for students to look at, not just where can I go make the most money, how quickly, but what's really going to connect with me and who I am. And that's why I love the Myers Briggs type indicator. You can do professional versions for a very low amount of money. And of course, you can find plenty of them on different forms of social media. I wouldn't necessarily trust those. Um, and it can give insight into what different career and work opportunities are available that relate or are most successful to different Myers-Briggs type personalities. And of course, it's so important for us to educate students and young adults on knowing their own biases and on the other biases impacting them. The idea that some advice or perspectives are outdated. And now I tell a lot of students this, I tell a lot of young adults this, that the idea of finding the perfect job, staying there for 40 years, the company taking care of you, and you retire with a gold watch and ride off into the sunset, I don't think that exists anymore. And I think we all know that. But sometimes, all too often, students are getting advice just from one generation before that that's how the world worked. And so, helping them understand their own biases, the biases of the world, and that of those around them can help them make more meaningful decisions. One of the ideas from Frankl and this psychology of meaning is that we get to choose meaningfully every moment of every day. We are confronted with myriad decisions on a daily basis, some important, like what am I going to have for lunch, and some not so important, like what socks am I going to wear. There are very important decisions, though, and you impact those decisions with the students you work with and helping them to make meaningful decisions. And I love this quote if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. He says, pursue what is meaningful, choose what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And I see that in students coming out of high school, coming out of a junior college, even just coming out of college, taking the first job that comes their way that offers them a paycheck rather than looking for what connects with them more. And that's even true in students picking fields of study. Whether it's going off to college or choosing a trade, it's important to choose meaningfully because that meaningful choice at whatever point it is in life is going to have a longer, more positive impact than choosing dollar signs faster. So, how do we choose meaningfully? We choose work and work environments that allow for creativity and problem solving, whether that's a pipe fitter or a police officer or a psychologist or a teacher. The environment that we work in has to allow for creativity and problem solving. That's so we can discover meaning in that work that we do. It has to be work that allows us to give to our family, our community, our society, but also those around us. Work that offers new experiences, opportunities to grow and evolve. Every human being in their uniqueness seeks in some way to develop, to grow, to evolve. And our work opportunities can improve that and magnify that for us. We have to choose work that gives us a chance to interact with others in meaningful ways. Some of the saddest situations I work with are work environments where people put these in, they put their head down, and they just do the work all day long, and they're told never to lift their head or interact with others. That's a recipe for meaningless, soul crushing work, even if it's the most important thing in that time. We have to choose work that's a service to our family, our community, and our society, and work that allows us to do more than just make money for ourselves, but gives us a purpose to transcend ourselves. What students and employees should look for. This is where I've created the idea of leading for meaning. This is what I usually give to management teams and supervisors. But this is something you can teach your students, I believe. These should be environments that seek to learn about the unique individual of the person. I instruct managers to get to know the individual qualities of their people and then to engage them in that. That's where the Myers-Briggs comes in handy again, or other work developments. So learn about people. As somebody selecting a career, as a student, you want to go into an environment where people care enough to know about you and to engage you in that uniqueness. One of the most important thing any person in a work environment can know is the answer to the question. The question is, who am I serving? Who am I taking care of? Who am I helping? And sometimes it's producing amazing products that help the world. And sometimes it's just knowing that what I'm doing helps my supervisor or those around me to continue to have a job. But answering the question of who am I helping? And finally, designing and developing. People need to work in environments that are constantly designing and developing assessments, opportunities for growth, opportunities to learn, change, grow, and evolve as an individual. And that's where lead comes in. I want to leave you with this one final quote, possibly one of my favorites from Frankl himself. It's a bit of a long one. Don't aim at success. And this is so important for students to know. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you're going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue. And it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as a byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. Happiness must happen. And the same holds true for success. You have to let it happen by not caring about it. I want you to listen to what your conscience commands you to do and go on to carry it out to the best of your knowledge. Then you will live to see that in the long run. In the long run, I say, success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think about it. If we teach our students and our young adults to pursue, to choose meaningfully, they will find happiness, they will find success. But if we teach them to chase success and to chase happiness and to chase money, they won't find meaning. And I think that's a very important distinction. It has been absolutely my pleasure to spend these few minutes with you. I hope you found that helpful. I hope I didn't get too passionate sharing with you. I know these are things I'm deeply passionate about. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is right there. You can find out more about me on all these different websites. Again, it is my pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to hopefully working with you again. Take care.